What's up everybody, Hunter Avalone here. Welcome back to another video. Today's video is going to be much more on the serious side because today's video once again is focusing on George Floyd. More specifically, this new exclusive leaked body cam footage showing the horrific moments before George Floyd's murder. We have a little bit over 8 minutes of body cam footage that we're going to be looking over today, but first I want to just talk about this because I'm sure a lot of you have already seen the body cam footage, and there are plenty of people, specifically those on the right, claiming that this somehow changes everything when I watched the footage and I have no idea what they're talking about, because this changes absolutely nothing. If anything, this footage just makes the cops look even more corrupted and crooked than we initially thought. And to be honest, anyone who's claiming that this footage somehow changes everything with the George Floyd narrative probably didn't give a fuck about George Floyd's murder in the first place, and they would probably be finding any kind of excuse or any way to justify George Floyd's horrific, unjustified murder at the hands of our police. So let's go over this footage. I am giving you a warning. There is some disturbing and graphic content that will be shown, so proceed at your own risk, proceed with caution. And let's start looking over this and talk about how this changes nothing.
I see your hands.
Damn, man.
Stay in the car. Let me see your other hand.
I'm sorry.
Let me see your other hand.
Please,
Both hands.
do nothing.
Put your hands up right now.
So the officer is approaching George Floyd's vehicle because George Floyd is suspected of allegedly using a counterfeit $20 bill. Nothing has been suggested that he is armed or dangerous in any way. The cop approaches him, tells him to put his hands up, and within 22 seconds in, the cop is pulling his gun, pointing it at George Floyd's fucking head. So there are plenty of people on the right now who are saying, well, George Floyd resisted arrest. Maybe he's not so innocent after all. Okay, well let me ask you this right now. Do you think George Floyd maybe had a bit of a reason to be resisting arrest? I certainly think George Floyd had a very justifiable reason to be anxious and uneasy in this situation, considering he hasn't even been informed why he's being pulled over. He hasn't been told that he's suspected of any crime yet. The cop just approaches him and pulls the fucking gun on him. It's absolutely ridiculous. So I fail to see how this changes anything yet.
Step out and face away.
Okay, please don't shoot me. Please, man.
I'm not going to shoot you. Step out and face away.
I'm going to get out of eye, man. Please don't shoot me, man.
Not shooting you, man.
Please, man. I just lost my mom, man.
Take one out. Step out and face away.
You've got to empathize with the guy.
Don't shoot me, man.
Step out and
Look at this. He's been arrested multiple times and the cop just approached him and pointed a fucking gun at his head. No wonder he's over here pleading for his life. No wonder he's begging not to be shot.
right now.
Stop moving. Put your hand behind your back then. I'm not going to do nothing. Face the door.
Things are wrong.
Keep in mind that, again, George Floyd has still not been informed why he's under arrest. He hasn't been told what he's been suspected of doing. The cop just approached him, pointed a gun at him, and now is roughing him up as they're putting him in cuffs while George Floyd pleads for his life. I feel like they could have confronted him and talked to him about it while he was still in the car. They didn't have to rip him out of the car and point a fucking gun at him.
I hear you, but you're going to face the door right now.
Listen up. Stop.
I'll do anything. I'll do anything y'all tell me to do, man. I'm not a resistor, man. I'm not. You can ask him. They know me here, though.
Check that side.
My God, man, I'm going to do nothing like that, y'all.
This is absolutely horrible.
Look at my wrist, officer. I'm not that kind of guy.
The other side.
Notice how the cops are just refusing to communicate with him. George Floyd is begging to talk to them because what he's trying to do, and he does explain this at some point in this video, that he has claustrophobia, so he's unable to comfortably be in the back of the car. However, the police officers, of course, do not care, and they're refusing to listen.
Hey, man. Don't leave me by myself, man, please. I'm just claustrophobic. That's it.
Oh, you're still going in the car.
Good job, no, sir. Why? No, I don't have nothing. Why y'all doing me like that, Mr. Officer? Please crack his window for me and stuff, man. I am claustrophobic for real, Mr. Officer.
Right here, I'm claustrophobic, you hear him? I honestly don't even think he's fucking resisting. He's a little anxious, understandably, because he's had a gun pointed at him and he still doesn't know why he's being arrested, but how is he even resisting? He's asking the officers to please stay with him. He's asking if there's any other way because he has claustrophobia. He has a hard time being in the back of the car.
I don't want to win. I'm claustrophobic. I'm claustrophobic. I got anxiety. I don't want to do nothing to them.
See, he's trying to explain.
Man, I'm scared.
He's trying to explain that he has claustrophobia and anxiety.
My breathing's gonna go up on me, man. Man, please, take a seat. Please, man, please.
This is terrifying. George Floyd sounds absolutely terrified. Rightfully fucking so.
Please, fine. My wrist, man. My wrist, man, please. I can't take this, man. I can't. I'm gonna lay on the ground. 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 I'm gonna lay on the ground.
He's trying to cooperate. He's literally offering to lay on the fucking ground. So does this change everything, as many conservatives are claiming? No. Not even slightly. The only thing this might change is how the courts sentence Derek Chauvin, the officer who kneeled on George Floyd's neck. But no, other than that, I don't think this body cam footage changes a single damn thing other than making the police officers look even more crooked and more corrupt. First, George Floyd was pulled over for allegedly using a counterfeit $20 bill, and within 20 seconds of them pulling him over, they had a gun pointing at the guy's head. Then, they didn't bother telling him why he was being arrested or what he was suspected of doing or any kind of crime they thought he may have committed. Nothing. They just pulled him out of his car, and then tried to force them in the back of their car, despite his claims that he has claustrophobia, extreme anxiety, and he even offered to get on the ground. He was cooperating. He was not resisting arrest. Throughout this footage, George Floyd even predicted his own death, claiming that if he got in the back of that car, he would probably die back there.
I'm not that kind of guy, man. Take a seat. Yo, I'm gonna die here. Take a seat. I'm gonna die, man.
And you know what? Even if George Floyd was completely resisting arrest, that still does not give the police officers justification to murder the guy. That doesn't put the police officers in the position of the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Sorry, it just doesn't. Even if he were resisting arrest, George Floyd's death still would be unjustified. But he was not resisting arrest. After I watched this footage, at first I thought maybe this does change something slightly. I thought maybe because George Floyd was really anxious and acting really sporadic, this would justify Derek Chauvin putting George Floyd in that intense chokehold position, at least initially. But upon further review, I do not think that George Floyd's anxious and sporadic behavior justifies Derek Chauvin putting him in that kind of chokehold position that ended up killing him, because the officers are the ones who created this hostile environment by pointing a gun at the guy's damn head 20 fucking seconds in. So if we're gonna argue that Derek Chauvin putting George Floyd in that position initially may have been justified, no. By that logic, George Floyd's sporadic and anxious behavior is fully justified because he had a gun pointed at him almost instantly. Just try to imagine how you would react if you were pulled over by a police officer, they had a gun at your fucking head, you don't know why you're being pulled over, you haven't been told you've done anything wrong, you don't know what's going on, but you have a gun pointed at your head. Do you really think that we would all just sit back and follow the law and say, "Hi, officer, how are you? Here are both my hands, would you like a cookie?" As Americans, we have a right to trust and feel protected by our police officers, and honestly, George Floyd's sporadic and anxious behavior was entirely justified because, hindsight is 2020, the guy ended up dying during that arrest. So first they point a gun at the guy, they pull him out of the car, they refuse to listen to him when he explains that he's claustrophobic and has bad anxiety. When he offers to get on the ground, they don't bother to listen to him, they shove him in the car, allegedly he's beaten in the back of the car at some point, then he gets taken out of the car. Officer Derek Chauvin holds his knee on George Floyd's neck for nearly 10 minutes, 3 minutes of which after they were unable to find a pulse, and George Floyd dies. So how does this footage change anything? How does this footage somehow destroy the narrative and make all of the protests completely useless? It doesn't. All this shows is that crooked fucking police officers exist. We need to have more trust in our police officers, and we cannot when they're going around murdering people like this. The police officers are in the position of authority. It's up to them to set the context. When you point a gun at the guy's head within a couple seconds of asking to see his hands, you create the anxious, uneasy environment that leads to people like George Floyd resisting arrest. So fuck the police officers. Hopefully these fuckers get locked up for life. That's what they deserve. This was murder, plain and simple. Had Derek Chauvin not kneeled on George Floyd's neck, George Floyd would still be alive today. And whether George Floyd actually committed this crime or not is also irrelevant, because passing a counterfeit $20 bill is not worthy of the death sentence. That is not justice, and that is not liberty for our fellow Americans, and I'm not gonna fucking stand for it. So I don't care if George Floyd committed a crime. I don't care if George Floyd had drugs in his system. George Floyd was murdered, it was unjustifiable, and it was despicable, and these police officers need to be accountable. Every new piece of evidence that gets released to the public only further proves that what happened to George Floyd was horrific in every conceivable way. Sorry I got a little heated here, guys, but when I see someone who falls victim to just a blatant display of injustice, it breaks my heart, and it really does make me angry, and I think rightfully so. Anyway, please share this video, give this video a like, comment below, and subscribe to the channel for new content almost every day. I'll see you all soon, and let's continue to fight for justice for George Floyd. No justice, no peace.